More people across the world claim descent from Clan Donald than from any other Scottish clan. And this is the story of how the MacDonalds became the biggest and most powerful clan of all. For centuries they ruled the western seaboard and controlled an empire big and powerful enough to challenge the kings of Scotland. And the story starts with an extraordinary man, Somerled, the greatest of all Celtic warrior kings. This half-Norse fighter beat the Vikings at their own game and rose to such power that his descendants were known as the Lords of the Isles. With a fleet of smaller craft that could outmaneuver the Viking longboats, Somerled drove them from the positions of power and established an island empire that stretched the length of the west coast. In Gaelic, he was known as Reinterred, the King of the Isles. This is the story of Somerled's rise and his eventual defeat at the Battle of Renfrew, but it's also the story of a clash of cultures between the Highland and the Lowland worlds. But the name MacDonald isn't simply renowned because they were lords of the Isles. Part of their fame seems to rest on an entirely different series of events that came to a bloody climax in the valley of Glencoe. This is the story of how a clan who were so powerful they could establish and maintain their own Celtic parliament were eventually diminished by powerful enemies and internal struggles. And in the end, the only victor was the ruling Stuart monarchy. But the MacDonald story didn't end there, for they appear to be flourishing, numbering more than 500,000 members worldwide. And a recent survey suggests that 1 in 4 MacDonalds can trace their origins back to Somerled. The Frasers are a clan with more than one chief. Firstly, the Frasers of Polorth, the Lord Saltoun, are chief of the Fraser name. The Highland Fraser chief is Lord Lovat, and the lands of Inverness-shire around Black Isle and the Firth of Bewley are traditional Fraser of Lovat territory. Warrior skills lay at the heart of Highland society, and no family was more aware of this than the Stuarts. During what became known as the Jacobite Rebellion, they took Highland loyalty for granted. Not all clans rushed to help. Many joined the cause, but others were a wee bit cautious. The Frasers of Polorth, for example, took no part in the Jacobite Rebellion. And the chief of the warrior Frasers of Lovat tried to prevent his men from fighting with the Jacobites at the Battle of Killiecrankie in 1689. But when they marched without him, Thomas Fraser gave in and joined them. His successor, Simon Fraser, was known as the Fox. He was 78 years old at the outbreak of the 1745 rebellion and, following the Jacobite victory at Prestonpans, sent his son to fight for their cause. After the Jacobite defeat at Culloden, he took to the hills and was captured near Loch Morar. On the 9th of April 1747, Simon Fraser became the last man to be executed at the Tower of London. His death was a public spectacle. A spectators' gallery collapsed, and it said that Simon spent his last moments in hysterical laughter, which literally gave rise to the expression, to laugh one's head off. And when another Simon Fraser, the 17th Lord Lovat, captain of the Lovat Scouts his father had founded, landed on Sword Beach on the 6th of June 1944 during the invasion of Normandy, the Frasers' extraordinary military history came full circle. He was back where the Frasers started. The man at the head of his commando brigade was a descendant of a Norman knight who had fought with Scotland's kings, and Simon the Fox, who had been executed for treason and was now helping to liberate Normandy. Against specific orders, Lord Lovat instructed his personal piper, 21-year-old Bill Millen, to play the commanders ashore. Millen played Highland Laddie and rode to the Isles, which you would have thought would have made him an obvious target. But German soldiers later said they didn't shoot him because they thought he was mad. The Gordons were given their lands in Aberdeenshire by Robert the Bruce as a reward for their help in the War of Independence. And though it's now a ruin, Huntly Castle was the Gordon seat for 500 years and is still one of Scotland's most impressive medieval buildings. Gordon history involves a corpse being sent to Edinburgh for trial, a royal favourite getting away with murder, and of course, how the Gordon's chief became known as Cock of the North. By the 16th century, the Gordons had huge territorial and military power, and when George Gordon, 4th Earl of Huntly, had Mary, Queen of Scots' mother, Mary of Guise, the Queen Regent and the most powerful woman in the country, to stay, he entertained her so lavishly a courtier warned her to clip the wings of this Cock of the North. And though it was initially a derogatory term, it's the title by which the clan chief is known to this day and is the pipe march of the Gordon Highlanders. The 4th Earl was one of Scotland's most powerful Catholics, but when he sided with the Protestant Reformation, Mary Queen of Scots declared him a rebel and gave the Murray estates to her half-brother, Lord James Stuart. Lord James, now the Earl of Murray, pursued the Gordon rebels and defeated them at the Battle of Corrichy in 1562. George Gordon died after being captured and his son was executed. Mary had the 4th Earl's corpse shipped to Edinburgh, where it was put on trial for treason and found guilty, creating a feud between the Gordons and the Earls of Murray that would continue for generations. One of Mary's son, James VI's favourites, was the 4th Earl's grandson, another George Gordon, 6th Earl and 1st Marquess of Huntly. And when he was murdered, James Stuart, known as the Bonnie Earl of Murray's mother, Margaret Campbell, commissioned a portrait of her son's dead body, showing his multiple wounds. "Revenge my cause" is written at the top, and it was Margaret Campbell's intention to display the painting at the Market Cross in Edinburgh, but the king ignored her request, effectively refusing permission and letting his favourite away with murder. One of Scotland's most scenic places, Castle Urquhart on the shores of Loch Ness, was held by Clan Grant for 400 years. It was blown up to prevent the Jacobites from using it, but the main structure is still known as the Grant Tower. During the Jacobite rebellions, the exiled Stuart monarchy tried to regain the British throne with the help of some Highland clans. The deposed king's son, Charles Edward Stuart, Bonnie Prince Charlie, raised an army of over 2,000 men drawn from more than 30 clans. But the Jacobite risings pitted Grant clansmen against each other. The Grants supported the Hanoverians, but the Grants of Glenmoriston fought with the Jacobites. In 1725, men from Clan Grant were one of the 6 companies to form the 42nd Highlanders, now known as the Black Watch. The Grants of Glenmoriston fought with the Jacobites at Prestonpans in 1745 and a year later at Culloden, where the battle lasted less than an hour and the Jacobite forces were decimated. The brutality of the reprisals earned the royal commander, the Duke of Cumberland, the nickname Butcher. The killing was indiscriminate and went on for days. Families were forced to leave their burning homes and left to starve. Jails were emptied and filled with Jacobites. 84 Grants of Glenmoriston who survived the battle were sent to the prison ships at Tilbury, and in March 1747 were transported to Barbados in violation of their terms of surrender and sold as slaves. Miraculously, one clansman, Alexander Grant, a 48-year-old boatman, escaped from Barbados, returned home and was reportedly living in Glenmoriston in 1748. And later, during the evictions known as the Highland Clearances, when families were forced to leave their traditional glens and small-scale agriculture was replaced by sheep rearing, the Grants were one of the few clans to be unaffected. The 23rd clan chief, known as Good Sir James, built the town of Granton-on-Spey to rehouse the clansmen who were now tenants displaced by agricultural reform and to save them from forced emigration.